Benny.
Hello, everybody. We are here again in iShook with our great friend Adam from the, let me say this right, the Suzzcast, right? Do I pronounce it right? Here's the QR code to link up and follow and subscribe. This individual, I think for me, he's the love of my entertainment when it comes to the stuff that he does in his show. I like it. I watch it. It's a lot to discuss about social construct of our communities, of our families, of our relationships. And anyone who wants to know about financing and romance, my man, Adam is the person. He is the key. And we are so honored to have him on our show for so many times and hopefully for so many more. And honestly, guys, Valuetainment, PBD, and Adam and the whole team over there overreaching 2 million subscribers. And Adam is not too far off. I mean, he's maybe like 1/8 there yet. And I just want to announce we're small players towards them. But honestly, we got our first YouTube 100,000 subscribers plaque. And we're so honored that Adam helped us in this journey. And I also want to say thank you to Tom Ellsworth, who also joined one podcast, at least with us. And it's a pleasure that Adam has been with us so many times. And I feel like I have a new brother, honestly, a new friend, a new brother, a new cohort in this endeavor and in this things that we're doing, and I'm happy for him to be on board. And let's just catch up. Adam, what's going on with you? What's new before we start the show?
Well, Benny, great to be on. I think this is our 4th time I'm being on the iShook YouTube platform, radio extraordinaire. It's great.
Appreciate that, brother.
I think we just have a good time together. What's going on? Well, what isn't going on these days? In our world, we're planning our massive event at Valuetainment called The Vault. It's September 4th through 7th here in South Florida in West Palm Beach. Look at this guy. You might recognize these people who are going to be there.
Oh, yeah, The Rock.
Dwayne. Dwayne Johnson at The Vault. Get your tickets.
Exciting.
We're planning on that. That's going to be incredible. Last year, we had Tom Brady, Mike Tyson. I said, PBD, how the hell are we going to do a bigger lineup than Tom Brady and Mike Tyson? He goes, all right, hold on. Let me think about it. How about The Rock? I was like, oh, my God. So we got The Rock coming in about 5 weeks to our biggest event, The Vault, that we do. And covering the election, Trump, Kamala, what's going on with that? We just saw the RNC. Trump just got shot. What's going to happen in the DNC? Is it going to be Kamala? Is someone going to come out of nowhere? Is Obama going to endorse? I think he did endorse. What's going on with that? The economy. Is Trump going to basically run away because the economy is the number one issue? Or is sort of what's going on with a colored woman, DEI, woke, progressive? The Olympics went a little too woke, trans, crazy. So the beautiful thing about podcasting, Benny, as you know, is you're never going to run out of stories. And we're now in political season. We're about to be August 1st and tomorrow. We have August, September, October. We're 3 months and 5 days out from the 2024 election. Who knows what's going to happen here? It's crazy, Benny, because legitimately, I don't say this sarcastically, we could have just had Trump's funeral a week ago.
Oh, no doubt.
That's how close we were. So there's so much going on, but counting our lucky blessings and being grateful. Obviously, Bibi Netanyahu just spoke in front of Congress. There's so much going on, Benny. And every time we speak, we have a great time. So I'm ready for it all.
All right. So I'm going to give you a curveball. Most people are not thinking about this. Okay. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Uh-oh.
But I'm going to say something that's too coincidental, okay? Weeks ago, before the attempted assassination of our president, Donald Trump, right? And I don't pray for any political figure for an assassination where we're always against political violence of any time, of any type, of any aisle, right? President Biden is still our president. I give him, he is my president. I'm proud of him being my president. Do I agree with everything he's doing? Do I feel bad of his his physical situation? Of course. But it's too coincidental that when the Supreme Court defined, this is very funny, that the president is immune, and Judge Kagan writes in her dissent that if a president will order a hit for an assassination of a political rival that will make him also potentially immune. And boom, 2 weeks later, there's a political attempt of an assassination. So what the heck is going on? Like, this is something that mind boggles me. What is going on here? This is crazy.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to was the fact that the Supreme Court ruled, I believe it was 6-3 along party lines, conservatives and liberals voted for presidential immunity, especially under acts of the presidency. So the whole concept where what the conservatives sort of stated was the fact that, hey, if you're doing acts as the president of the United States, you can't come into question. So you're going to have to basically be worried about, hey, years later, am I going to be prosecuted for some of the moves that I moved? For example, George W. Bush, yeah, in hindsight, kind of messed up on that Iraq thing a little bit, buddy, right?
Right.
Obama, a drone strike, killed some people, Americans, what have you, in Afghanistan. What happened with that? It's under his duties. So Trump Trump had, what a week he had. Boom, 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 boom. After the 34 accounts, felony, okay, what have you, raised how many millions of dollars? $200 million, whatever the number was. Shortly after that, gets shot. Oh my God. Thank God he's not dead. Shortly after that, or before that, presidential immunity from the executive office. He had a week and then culminated with the RNC. But the flip side to it, I think you mentioned this, was so is there anything he can't be tried for? Is there anything that we can't come after this guy for? So the fear is this guy can do whatever he wants. Ben Shapiro actually did a good breakdown on this. I believe it was on Bill Maher. He said, no. This is under acts of the executive office. If you go out there and as famously as Trump says, I could shoot somebody in the face under at Fifth Avenue and I won't be arrested. No. That's exactly why you will be arrested, because that is not part of your executive duties, executive powers.
Right.
So
I think that's a private matter. He's still liable.
Yeah. So what you're saying, it's a coincidence that ruling was just after the shooting.
No, that Kagan wrote the dissent. No, she wrote a dissent. And over in Kagan is an Obama appointed judge, right? So, and then all of a sudden you have this event happening, and then all of a sudden Biden steps down. What's going on here? Like the surety of their win is like crazy. Like the surety. Like how are you so confident in your moves that you're so sure you're going to win? I mean, this Trump, no matter what you say, he's got 20,000, 30,000 people in his events. The other party barely has, you hear crickets in their events. It's not to put them down, but they surely could get a better candidate that will not bring the crickets over. They'll bring actual people over.
Well, that's the whole concept with Kamala right now, is that she's quote unquote energizing the base. And it's an interesting situation where we're at, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, because a lot of you look at it, a lot of it has switched. The Democratic Party used to be the party of the working people, the working man, a lot of unions, right?
Right.
Whereas in the 80s under Reagan, trickle down economics, what have you, it was sort of the country club millionaires, the Republicans were the party of the rich, where the Democratic was the party of the working man. Now it's completely changed when you think about it, Benny. So let's back up a second. Mm-hmm. The Democrats have become the party not of the working man, but of the working woman. Whereas the Republicans, so there's stats out there where men overwhelmingly vote Republican. Married women go towards Republican. Single men, married men go towards Republican. But overwhelmingly, single women vote Democrat. So if you look at the top issues in the country right now, the number one issue by far is the economy. Pocketbook issues, what's going on here. So the economy is number one. So that comes with income inequality, that goes to inflation, that goes to the cost of living, that goes to the cost of everything. That's number one. Jobs, 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 jobs. You know, as James Carville famously said, it's the economy, stupid, right? But if you look at what the messaging on the left is, it's all women's reproductive rights, abortion, LGBTQ. You saw Kamala made her formal announcement or candidacy on RuPaul's Drag Race. So there's something going on here right now. The Democratic Party has become the party of identity politics, of putting women first, and it's eerie to me how things have crossed so much in just a few short decades, where the Democrats, the party of the working man, is now the party of the working woman, and the Republicans, who used to be the party of the rich and the elite and the tax breaks, which they still kind of are, but it's the working man, it's the everyday worker, it's the, hey, I'm in the Midwest, I'm in the Rust Belt, I identify with Trump. It's very weird what's going on right now, but don't be surprised when you see Kamala out there playing the identity politics, playing the race card. It's inevitable. Of course, it's going to happen.
So let me ask you a question. Since you do a lot of podcasts, and your podcast is really about the social construct, how people engage in relationships, and you have a lot of women, you take a lot of their intake of information, what they think, how they feel. What are they thinking about this? Forget Trump right now and Kamala. Those are just figures of parties and of ideas. Let's take the ideas. Are they for a national broad go for it for abortion? Do they believe that no, abortion is wrong, but there are thousands, like in Judaism, right? Abortion is wrong, but there's thousands of reasons why you can have an abortion. If the baby is potentially going to kill the mother in childbirth, if there's autism, right? There's many things that we had a podcast with one of our podcasters, Kira Deneen. She's a genetic counselor, and she says there's so many reasons why you might need an abortion. And you know, in Judaism, we believe that, like, there's thousands of reasons why you can get an abortion, but to blankly say, yeah, get an abortion because of recreational abortion, I will call it. Like, it's a recreational abortion. I want to just have an abortion, right? But instead of creating more of a protective sex situation where we educate more people of that, like, where do these girls stand on? I mean, because obviously different girls, different cultures, and you've interviewed so many different types of walks of life and understanding the relationship world, understanding the mindset of women. What do you think? What do they say to you?
So the question really to me is the average voter voting rationally, or are they voting emotionally? Are they voting based on policies, or are they voting based on personality? I would argue that the majority of people, there's an emotional component, and they're voting for the personality. So let's just take Trump, for example. So a lot of people that don't like Trump, just his personality is abrasive. So a lot of people that love Trump, about 40% of America, his floor and his ceiling, you know, there's a floor and a ceiling.
Yeah.
It's pretty much at 42 to 45%. Like, he doesn't ever go below 40, and he's never really gone above 45%. Trump, his base is fixed. But, you know, in politics, they say it's about addition, not subtraction. That's why the Democrats say we're a big tent party. Everybody's coming in. But if you look at Trump's policies, it's pretty clear what he stands for. Strong borders. All right. Let's ramp up the economy. No foreign wars. It's pretty clear. So what do the Democrats stand for at this point? Well, Bidenomics, the whole concept of Bidenomics, nobody can really define what that means. Bidenomics, you know, if you take the Reagan trickle-down economic theory, you know, tax breaks for the rich and no trickle down. Bidenomics basically is like, look, we're going to build from the middle class out, from the bottom up, not the top down. Okay. Well, how have those numbers worked? You know, inflation compared to the rest of the world doing good. But again, there's logic versus emotion. If you ask the average person, hey, is inflation affecting you? Oh my God, I can't afford groceries. Oh my God, rent's out of control. We've done a pretty good job on inflation, but people don't feel that way. So to answer your question about the women, a lot of people, a lot of women especially, they see Trump and they just get the ick. You familiar with this thing? Oh, it's the ick.
Yeah.
So they see Kamala and, oh, it's a woman. They don't know that she's the reason that she's the border czar, that inflation is running rampant because some of the jobs are being taken by the illegal immigrants, so people can't find jobs. So there's so much more to it, but people are emotional beings. They're emotional voters, and most people aren't processing, well, you know, Trump did this and Kamala did this. Because if you look at the track records, right, Benny, between Trump and Kamala, it's not even close.
Oh, no doubt. There's no...
Trump has done so much more, but there's this emotional, guttural feeling. Trump. So if you see all the ads, Trump's going to take away your rights. You're never going to have an abortion. Well, the reality is, after the Dobbs ruling versus Roe versus Wade, it's a state-by-state issue. So,
and Kamala has said that, by the way. Kamala has said, let the states have to do it, and she said that let's make it a national law. But again, who's really reading into her words? You know,
the bottom line is, as a grown-up man, I don't wake up every day thinking, what are we going to do about abortion? It's just not on my list. But for a lot of women, it is.
It is, right. Mm-hmm.
And that's how they feel. But the reality is, America, this is not my opinion. If you look at the stats, the number one issue is the economy. The number two issue is the border. Number three issue is crime, safety. So just to kind of sum this up, what am I saying? If the economy is your number one issue, you should probably vote for Trump. Right. If abortion is your number one issue, you should probably vote for Kamala. Right. If the border and immigration is your number two issue, you should probably vote for Trump. If the Green New Deal or climate change is your number two issue, you should probably vote for Kamala. I get it. You know, if safety, security, peace, prosperity, no foreign wars, ending wars is your number three issue, then, you know, Trump has a proven track record for not having wars pop up all around the world. You know, if DEI, just checking off boxes, the woke LGBT agenda, this is kind of what the Democratic Party is. And by the way, if this is your first time hearing me speak, you'd be like, oh, this guy seems pretty conservative. No, I'm actually a lifelong independent who's always voted Democrat. Let me say that again. I'm a registered independent, but I've always voted Democrat. A grown man. My dad was a JFK guy. He liked Clinton. So I saw what was going on. But over the last 4 to 8 years, someone like me that is straight, male, Jewish, pro-Israel, pro-America, loves this country, I'm looking back and I'm seeing what's going on here. And I'm saying, I wasn't a Trump guy. But if you compare Trump now, the 4 years he had, versus Biden, the 4 years he had, and you just look completely objectively, you have to say it was definitely better under Trump. And
no doubt.
With a lot of humility and grace, and say, yeah, I was wrong. I actually thought.
I'm sorry for cutting you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm saying the actual.
I was wrong. Yeah.
Right, but the actual proof that Trump's policies did work is that Biden reenacted a lot of those policies, but it was too late. Right? He repurposed them again at the end of the game, at the end of the deal. Right, and it's too late. And you see the fact that they did repurpose and reenact them again. You know, it shows that he was right in his policies. I don't know why they're not talking about it. You
bring up such a good point. So let's look at some of the things that Trump railed about. Okay, number one, let's build the wall. In 2016, we found out that walls are racist. In 2024, hey, you know who's would be kind of good right now? Yeah, that wall. Because we've had, 10, 15, whatever the number, million immigrants, illegal immigrants, or as Joe Biden calls them, newcomers. We got to call them newcomers because it's offensive when you call them illegal immigrants. Whatever you call them doesn't escape the fact that they're illegal in this country. Okay, so that wall looks pretty good right now. China, it turns out, I'm sort of a free trade guy, not an isolationist guy, Reagan-esque type of situation, peace through strength. Well, turns out that China has been ripping us off and stealing our intellectual IP, right?
Right.
And so, okay, turns out he was right on that. Was the tariffs the best approach? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But a hard stance on China is probably a good thing. By the way, Biden didn't change any of those policies with China
Right.
for the most
All the
part, right?
tariffs are still in play.
Yeah,
All of them are
so
still in
let's
play.
go see there. How about NATO? I believe that one of the greatest mistakes Trump never did was using his 3-word marketing for NATO. Make NATO pay. Why do I say that? Drain the swamp. Kind of good to maybe drain the swamp. Build the wall. All right, let's go to that. Lock her up, which he famously said, which they flipped it on him. So these 3-word monikers that just simplify the thing. All he had to say was make NATO pay. But he made it this, NATO's not paying their fair share. We're going to pull out of NATO. Russia, if you're watching, invade or whatever. The reality is, it makes sense. There's certain countries in NATO that are a lot closer to Russia than the United States is. And I guess we got to pay 2% of our GDP towards that. But now we're seeing countries like Poland, other countries paying even more, 3%, what have you, because they're the ones that are worried about getting attacked next. Now, I understand that having alliances and treaties, and we should value that. But all those things that Trump said in 2016, where people said, oh my God, I can't believe he wants to build a wall. Oh my God, I can't believe he wants to hold China accountable. Oh my God, I can't believe he wants to make our allies pay their fair share. We're looking back at it and saying, you kind of got to give him credit for this. You kind of got to give him credit for that. And then also acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. I mean, is there who's more pro-Israel out of the two presidencies? The Joe Biden Kamala administration, that's sort of a slave to two masters, that they say in the Bible. You can't serve two masters, where they're trying to basically befriend their allies of Israel, but also pander to the voters at Michigan, the Palestinians. You can't do both. Trump's very clear. Yeah, I'm with Israel. So you got to give Trump credit where credit's due, but sometimes it takes 4 years, 8 years, or a different case example to say, you know what? That Trump guy wasn't that bad. Last point. So you're happily married. You've been married for how long, right?
It's gonna be, I'll tell you right now. Oh, my wife is not gonna kill me. It's gonna be 20 years almost.
Okay, unbelievable. So was she the first woman you ever dated in your life or no?
Well, you know how it is in the Jewish community. She was the third woman I ever dated.
Perfect. So if she was the only woman you ever dated, you would have nothing to compare it with.
Correct.
But you had 2 other women that you were, speaking with. I don't know how it works like that. I'm in my.
Well, it's not more than. Well, let's tell the people it's not more than 2-3 dates, right?
So the point is, so I'll use myself.
Okay.
I dated a girl for a couple of years, and we had some issues. What happened? And then I dated another girl for a couple of years, and I realized the following: the girl that I dated initially actually wasn't as bad as I thought she was. But it took me to date this girl. You know what? This girl's way more materialistic than this girl. This girl's way more demanding than this girl. This girl's actually a lot harder to deal with than this girl. But it took the comparative analysis to say, you know what? I kind of screwed up, man. That girl was probably a better girl for me, but I was thinking of the wrong things. I valued the wrong things. But because I dated this girl, now I realize, you know what? That girl kind of was that. That's what's happening with Trump right now. Is that we had Trump, the mean tweets, it's so annoying. Well, now we have Biden, we're like, you know what? Kind of miss those mean tweets. Kind of miss the peace and the prosperity. Yeah, he's a little annoying. Yeah, he's a little abrasive. But I'd rather have a strong, abrasive leader than a weak, nice guy. And those are the 2 examples that we have now. Now we have the extension of Obama, who went on the apology tour all around the Middle East, befriended Iran, basically. And Biden, hey, I'm just a, nice guy. So I have enough chutzpah and enough balls to say, yeah, I screwed up by not thinking that Trump was the best candidate. All right, my bad, but I'm not going to make the same mistake again.
Right.
So that's where I'm at now.
Right. I think that a lot of people are at the same position you're in. I voted for Trump. Yeah, that's true. I voted for Trump. Am I Republican? I kind of regret, registering Republican. I'm probably going to, register as an independent this year before the election. And the reason why is because there happens to be too many extremes in both sides. So
Yep.
I don't like the extremes in this side and in the Republican side and the Democratic side. And I feel that if people don't call out their extreme individuals or their extreme members in their culture, then it's a problem. Like in Judaism, as the position that I hold, I call out people in their extremes. I'm like, this is not the way you have to be living a marriage. You're not realistic. You're living in the skies and your spiritual, bubble. And that's not reality. And that's not what Judaism is about. Judaism is making the best of reality and uplifting it to a spiritual sense. That's why we have blessings in foods and we have blessings in before eating and after eating. You want to elevate what you're doing as an animal by eating into a more spiritual, godly form. So that's the way I look at everything. If you can't call out your extreme peoples, then you have a problem. And that's really what happened in Paris. Like, just to shift to that for a second, right? Because we're talking almost in that same ideology. Like, if you let that extreme culture represent, they basically said, this is what Paris is. Are you kidding me? You just gave the extreme Muslims or the extreme conservatives a way out. Like to say, oh, that's why we have to bring Sharia law, or that's why we have to bring conservative movement to the parliament in Paris. And then you just created extremes and more extremes. So the more you push to the one side of the pendulum, the more the other side is going to hit back. So, and that's what they're doing. The more you create this gap, the more extremes you're going to create, extreme peoples you're going to create. And I think that's the biggest problem. We lost the ability to comprehend reality. Nothing of what happened in Paris is reality. It's an illusion of people literally mutilating themselves and saying it's okay to mutilate yourself. It's okay to be what you're not physically and realistically are. Like the imagination has superseded reality.
Are you talking about the Olympics specifically?
Yeah. The Olympic intro, because it's not just the intro, what happened in the Olympic. It's not just that part. It's how did we get to that? That's the main point I was referring to.
So I think that's a great point. I'll tell you why, Benny. So Pat wrote his book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Have you seen the book?
I've seen it, but I never read it yet.
Okay. I had, by the way, it's a great read on audio. He does it in his voice. You can do it in a few hours. It's great. I read the book and I did it on audio and it was great. But I had a hard time choosing my enemy wisely, right? Because I prided myself on actually not having enemies. So I grew up in Miami. My whole thing was I want to get along with everybody. I was that guy in high school, middle school, what have you. I had the Jewish friends. I had the black friends. I was friends with the girls. I was friends with the jocks. I was in the smart classes, but also was friends with the regular guys. Like my personality is very unifying. Hey, can we get along? Hey, the whole Rodney King thing from why can't we all just get along? Which was
right. You're universal. Basically, you're universal.
But here's what I realized. The bigger you get, right? Because I started off just a little Instagram guy, whatever. I joined forces with PBD. All of a sudden, I'm on a top 10 podcast in the country. The bigger you get, the more haters are showing up. If you're small, you probably don't have that many haters because you're not well known. So all of a sudden, you start getting bigger, you're going to start getting some haters. Now, the haters are going to start saying some things. Well, yeah, I don't like, I don't like his take on this. I don't like how he looks. I don't like how he acts. I don't like what he says. You're like, oh, shit. Now, what thing you have to think of at that point is say, okay, I'm not going to let them change who I am, but maybe I'll listen to, some things I say or do. Maybe, everyone can kind of reinvent themselves or improve. Understandable. So when Pat writes his book, I tell you that story to be like, all right, I don't really have any enemies. Like there's no like, how like Kobe Bryant, he had the Mamba mentality. He was in high school ranked like number 48 best high school player. He said, number 48, bro, I'm number 1. So he developed a hit list, a kill list. And he said, oh, my senior year, I'm going to play all these guys. I'm going to show them what's up. So he created these enemies. Michael Jordan would make up enemies. PBD will make up enemies. I had a hard time with this. What's my point? I realized, especially after October 7th, where I started saying, I don't know about all this, guys. So Israel's the bad guy now because we got attacked and we're defending us. Okay, I'm an American, but I have family and friends, Israel. So I realized, and it culminated with this Bassem Youssef interview, who,
Right.
we argued for, but I said at the end of the interview, Bassem, just to understand, I'm going to give you a hug. You're an Egyptian who's defending the Palestinians. I think it's funny that you can't go back to Egypt because you've been critical of the government, but you've been critical of Israel, but you could go to Israel. A little ironic. So what I realized was the following.
Did he hug you, by the way?
He gave me a hug. It was all
Okay,
good.
okay. Because
Respect
we
the-
didn't see that. We didn't see that. I didn't know that he hugged you.
So we did. There was a picture of it. So what I realized is the following. I had to come up with who my enemies are. And what I realized was I have two enemies. On one hand, the extremists, the radicals, the fanatics, the hardliners, the militants, the Islamists. They are not negotiating whatsoever. They believe this and they are sticking to it. There's zero wiggle room. Extremists. And on the other end is the exact opposite. Sloppiness. They don't care. They don't care how you look. You can be overweight. You could be this. A man's a woman. A woman's a man. It doesn't matter. I don't have to keep my finances together. I don't have to keep my house in order. Everything's just completely sloppy. Oh, I don't play that game either. Because I think everything needs to you kind of got to tighten it up. You kind of got to look good. You like whether you're dating, whether you're money, whether you have a family. What are you just going to live in garbage? What are you just going to be overweight? What are you going to just living check to check your whole life? You're going to have any money? You're just sloppy. Like, have you ever been in someone's car and you're like, dude, what just happened here?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is how you keep your car.
I'm not going to say who, but yeah, it's crazy.
No. So on one hand, you have these extremists, the Islamists, let's say.
Right.
On the other hand, you have the sloppiness, and they're completely polarizing and they're completely different. Now, me, I'm a very moderate person. I'm saying, hey, listen, yes, extremists, can we at least meet you on an idea or two? And on the sloppiness, it's like, can we clean this up a little bit? So that to me, you bring up the example of the Olympics where, yeah, anything goes. Bring the children out in front of the naked people, the pedophiles, the trans. Oh, it's all the same. What? Whoa, way too sloppy. Whereas the extremists, Islamists will say, oh, yeah, we should kill them all. What do you mean? You're just going to kill them because they're gay or they're L, they're G, they're B, they're T? What? So there's a happy medium here where we're not just killing people if they don't agree with what you agree with, but we're not just making like exceptions for everybody. Hey, you can do whatever you want. So to me, I'm trying to find this balance. This might be the moderate in me, the independent in me, the synergist in me, the unifier in me. How can we make the most radical extremist people and the most sloppy anything goes people come together to the middle? At the end of the day, the middle needs to hold. So if you look at American politics as an example, there's a chart here. I'd possibly even show it to you. Who's moved the most to the left and the right? Is it Republicans or is it Democrats? Which one is it? So here it is.
All right, shoot, that's interesting.
Can you see this? I don't know if you can see it.
I think you can, but it's. I see the graph. So which is blue? Explain to which one is the blue one.
So you can see three different graphs, and it basically
Okay.
This is 2000. This is 1994. This is 2004, and this is 2017. So it's giving you trends. So in terms of extremism or sloppyism, right? In 1994, I always use the analogy of football field. Where are you at on the football field? Me, I'm pretty much on the 50-yard line, but I'm kind of going I used to be a little bit more to the left. Now I'm probably more to the right. Cool. So if a 10 is a hardcore right winger, right, Benny?
Mm-hmm.
And a 1 or a 0 is a hardcore left winger, they say that the average Democrat and the average Republican in 1994, take a guess of where they were at on the scale of 1 to 10.
They were closer in the middle. In the middle.
You're absolutely right. A Republican was a 6 and a Democrat was a 5. So you know how they say, well, it's, two birds of the same feather, two wings. Okay.
Right.
In 2004, Republicans actually moved a little bit closer to the middle. They went from a 6 to a 5. And Democrats went from a 5 to a 4. So now you're basically still in the middle, but now you move left. as of when Trump came to office, Trump was so polarizing.
I think it spread the most, right?
The Republicans went to a 7. So from a 6 to a 5 to a 7. So they've only moved one to the left, one to the right. Democrats went from a 5 to a 4 to a 2. The liberals have gone so far left that Republicans, sure, have they gone a little bit to the right? Yes. But the Democrats have gone so far left from a 5 to a 2, whereas Republicans have gone from a 6 to a 7. So it just shows you where are these extremes really coming from. So, they say that the Democrats are really the extremist party right now, especially the progressive left. So
No doubt.
These are the gays for Gaza people out here.
Right.
To me, it's
well, Patrick Bet-David did say, and I've been saying it also locally. I mean, he said it also on the podcast. I mean, I think we think the same way. I'm sure you're going to think the same thing, that this is whatever the LGBTQ is, not all, some have made it into a religion. And now in religion, right, except for Judaism, people don't know historically Judaism never did missionary work. They never did conversion work. You never would have seen a Jew going out in the public, oh, let's convert these Gentiles. We never did that. Like, if we did that, I think we will all be Jewish today, honestly. Everybody will be adopting Judaism. Talmud will be in every single school. It'll be a different world today if we did that. But the reality is just like Christianity and Islam, the LGBTQ community, for its survival, needs to convert people. That's the way I think it is in general. I mean, I'm not saying this, God forbid, this is not a blanketed statement for every person who's LGBTQ. This is just an idea that we're seeing that there's a push. Why push an idea to other religion, to other people, when, for example, in Judaism, you're not going to see Google promoting a Jewish channel or Google promoting a Christian channel in YouTube, or you're not going to see the algorithm allowing certain types of videos coming out and becoming successful, like you did today in your podcast. Right at the end of the show, you showed 2% is religion in all the podcast topics. Right, 2% out of all the topics, and 2% is what is religion is 2% in podcasting when the whole world is religious. The majority of the world is religious, both Muslim, Christian, Hindu. Judaism is what, 0.001%.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but the whole world is religious. So why present, like, again, going back to the topic, what they did in Paris, why present it? Because you want to convert children. Because they can't have children per se. Right. They they can still adopt children, but they many stories have not been successful when they adopt children, especially when two men adopt children. Right. There was one case but again, it's not a blanketed statement for everybody. These are just our social constructs. I think the biggest problem we have in society today, and this is the main thing, and this so much affects business, by the way, as well, that what is happening is we are becoming delusional on what is reality. I don't think it's realistic for a person to mutilate himself to feed his imagination. Like, you will not chop a person's leg off because he, there's a thing that, oh, I need to be identified as a disabled person, and then you have people chopping off their legs or their hands or whatever it is, right? That's ridiculous, because we won't let a person jump off the cliff or jump off the roof. We would stop a person from committing suicide. Why are we not stopping anyone from mutilating themselves? Like, there's a contradiction. So there happens to be a change of intellect. That means you have many different intellects in the spectrum, and that's what's happening now. There is no more universal moral intellect. That's where we're losing everybody. But the reality is that those who are changing the moral intellect are not understanding those people are going to become poor. Why? Because they're not in tune to capitalistic rules. They're not in tune to reality. They're not in tune to who's drinking the beer by Budweiser, right? They're not in tune to who your customer is. Right? They're not understanding what the Olympics represented, which is representing where kids can come together, where countries can come together, not in war, and compete in sports. But now they're imposing things that are not every country is, doesn't represent every country. So now what are you doing? You're alienating people. Now, with regards to the enemy thing, you're going to grow, bro. Everybody's going to be your enemy. Not everybody. I'm talking about people are going to be your enemy. Who wants to see another person succeed? There's jealousy, there's envy, we're not, people, that's just automatic when you're growing. So I got to read Patrick's book because, choosing your enemy, sometimes you're not choosing your enemy. Your growth is your actual existence and growing is you're creating enemies. So what did you do wrong?
Yeah, no, great points, especially what you were saying about that community. There's a few things that came to mind. There's this article in the Wall Street Journal about the decline in traditional American values, and all the traditional American values that had defined what Americans are have all declined except for one. So community involvement declined, patriotism declined,
Right.
Wanting a family and children declined, getting involved in your community, religion declined. The only thing that was up was money, and it was up a little bit because money makes the world go round. I get it, but there's been this decline in traditional American values. So when you ask yourself, this democratic, socialist, progressive left movement, it's all people under 30. Why do people under 30 start to hate America? And why do people over 50 love America? And it just shows this decaying, this rot that has basically come over America. So here's what I believe. I believe in equilibrium. I believe that the world will correct itself. There's corrections and overcorrections. Some of these corrections, like you think of DEI and you think of ESG, it's sort of mandates. Some of them, at least on the surface, maybe were needed. Okay, so for women, for example, hey, maybe women needed a seat at the table, and women's suffrage, the right to vote, the right to work, to be out there. Yeah, okay, cool. But then it turned into, well, who runs the world? Girls. The future is female. The Me Too movement, believe all women. It's like, all right, so now men are supposed to be second-class citizens and women are supposed to be the boss babes. This doesn't work out so well because you're going to need men in society, ladies. Okay. The social justice movement, civil rights, 1968, everything that happened then, needed. Of course we needed that. Of course, all of a sudden that. But that transformed into the Black Lives Matter, the social justice warriors, everything, SJWs, where it's like, all right, so if you're a white male, you're now a second-class citizen. Well, what happened to equality? As MLK said, right? Judge me not by the color of my skin, by the content of my character. So now you have a situation, and I've never felt this way in my life, where we got to bring down the patriarchy. It's the white man that is causing all the problems. It's like, all right, are we really the ones that are causing the problems? Because is it socioeconomic? Because I know a lot of poor whites in West Virginia in rural trailer parks, so they're definitely not running the show here. So whether it's the DEI agenda from a corporate standpoint, whether it's the ESG, the environmental, social, or the governance, all these mandates, you start to see what has basically infected our universities, the media, even sports, the Olympics, as you're talking about right now, Hollywood, TV. The left has hijacked all this. And, I feel like I can say this because I've been a part of the left, but this new left is not the old left. The classic liberal, like a Bill Maher, he's one of the more vocal opponents of what's going on here, because this is not classic liberalism. This is socialism. This is Marxism. This is communism. This is collectivism. And we're not playing that game. So the average voter is looking at and saying the DEI, woke, progressive agenda, or peace, prosperity with some mean tweets. I'll take the mean tweets. And I think that's what's going on in America now.
Well, not just that. I think your show was a huge proponent in getting the ESG thing removed by BlackRock and so many. I mean, if you guys didn't start that, it was a trickle down effect with all these other podcasts thereafter. I mean, that was a huge thing. And I think Pat, needs to get a lot of credit on that, because that could have literally structurally destroyed a lot of small businesses. And I think that was the intent, to destroy small businesses, to keep those bigger players in play. And I think that's a big mistake. I mean, these people don't understand small businesses is what really runs the country. If you're not gonna have small businesses, you're gonna have dystopia in America and in the world. That's the reality. America needs to be healthy for the world to really run. And I tell to the people always in business, you have the buyer, you have the seller. America is the buyer of the globe. Everyone else is the seller. China, India are the manufacturers, and all the other companies sell ideas to America. Yes, America creates their own idea system. And the biggest thing that people don't understand is Israel is literally has the advanced technological abilities that no one else has. I'll give you an example. And this is what like a biggest thing, by the way, in the rabbinical circles, right? And I think this is good for business as well. So, and I'm going to make this topic off the whim, guys, off the whim, right? So this topic about lab grown meat, and I know in Florida, DeSantis banned lab grown meat, but lab grown meat's technology. And first of all, whether lab grown meat can be considered kosher or not, that's a different debate. I wrote a response, a write up on that, which hopefully will be published in a couple of months. But lab-grown meat is not just its lab-grown meat. In Israel, they have started creating lab-grown organs, where a person who can't find an organ of a kidney, he can take the cells of his own kidney and regrow his own kidney. This is like one of the biggest technological, genetical technologies that are coming out. People don't know this, and it's being developed in Israel from the same company where, what's his name? The guy from the Titanic. I always forget people's names, by the way. It's so bad.
DiCaprio?
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio put $30 million in a company called Mosa Meat. Mosa Meat's technology is also Aleph Meats in Israel. And yeah, go boycott now lab-grown meat, right? And Leonardo DiCaprio, right? So Aleph Meats already create 2 restaurants where they sell chicken burgers with lab-grown meat. It's very successful, moving to very high ends, right? And then they took this technology and say, okay, the way we're growing this lab-grown meat, we can easily create lab-grown organs. Now, a person doesn't have to go look for a donor. They can get their own heart. They can get their own kidney, replaced if need be with this future technology. And that's all coming from Israel. So we have to look at the globe more of what everybody's role is, as opposed to everybody being dominant in the world. Like China wants to be dominant, and we discussed this last time about BRICS, right? And then America wants to be dominant, and that's where Trump was saying, "Oh, we're going to go Bitcoin, we're going to be the capital," right? Which finally he said that he was against Bitcoin in 2016, 2017. Now all of a sudden he's embracing Bitcoin, right? Because he's getting so many donations from crypto. Like what the heck is going on? So I think this is the major thing that people are not getting. Like, this whole thing of this religion being imposed upon me, upon you. Why are you imposing me your beliefs? I'm not imposing you my beliefs. So what right do you have to impose yours upon me?
Yeah, well, did you ever, you familiar with the book Startup Nation about Israel?
I heard of it, yes. I never read it.
I read this book years ago, and it's pretty interesting. But, this little country, this little engine that could, how did they become such a world player? You talked about, Israel never was doing conversions, right? So Islam, the whole narrative is that they did conversion by the sword.
Right.
But Christianity also did that. They went into South America. They went into Africa, imperialism, colonialism.
Right. Don't forget the Crusades.
The Crusades, hello? That's not what the Jews did. So when they got this land back, they said, we can work harder, we can work smarter, we can do both. And Israel has become the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, right? So California, just by itself, I think is the number 5 GDP in the world, just California. Right? So the U.S. is number 1 with $30 trillion GDP, $27 trillion GDP. China, number 2 at 19 trillion, whatever it is. And then you have,
I think Texas is in the middle somewhere, no?
As well, exactly. So there's actually maps that you could see that, what each state in the United States, what it's compared to. Like California is the equivalent of all of the UK, and Florida is the equivalent of all of India, and New York is the equivalent of all of Germany. We have such productivity here in the United States. It's incredible. And here's Israel, this little engine that could, the size of what, Delaware, New Jersey, whatever it is.
New Jersey, yeah.
And I say that it's the nicest house in a shitty neighborhood. Surrounded by Gaza, by Lebanon, by Syria. Egypt doing okay these days. Jordan doing a lot better these days. But it's a rough neighborhood that they got to survive it. And what they've been able to do is incredible. And a lot of that is technology. So you talked about Trump. He's reversed his opinion on Bitcoin. You saw what he said, right?
Yeah. Right. He said he's going to fire that guy, the guy who's creating all this balagan, all this disaster in the crypto world. I mean, like, there's one thing between regulation and there's another thing to literally attack every single crypto project or blockchain project out there.
So Trump, my best friend, he was a correspondent for CNN, for CNBC. He actually started CNBC's first crypto show called it was called Crypto, whatever the hell it was. It was their first crypto show. CNBC Africa was who produced the show Crypto Banter, and they created this show. And so this guy goes to all the meetings. Now the Bitcoin conference has been in Miami for the past like 3 or 4 years. I don't know if you've been to
I was there. I was there in 2017. We were there 2017. Yeah. They've been there since 16 even. I was there 2017. It was very big, huge then, and it's even bigger now.
It's the first year that it's in Nashville. So last year
really?
I went. Yeah, it's in Nashville this year. Last year I went, and RFK spoke. Tulsi Gabbard spoke. She spoke, and then the next day she came on the PBD podcast. It was a great conversation. So this year, who shows up to the Bitcoin conference? Freaking Donald Trump shows up. Because, we talked about earlier how like things change. You have to evolve. You have to reinvent yourself. Trump was very critical of Bitcoin for many years. But Trump's an opportunist. He's a capitalist by nature. This vote is for the taking. I don't see Kamala or Joe Biden going to this type of meeting.
They're not pushing it.
Gary Gensler, who is the chairman of the SEC, right? He's speaking out against this. He's talking about potentially CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. So Gary Gensler, who runs the SEC, so Trump says, "All right, let me show up and give a big speech." Now, did you hear any of the speech? Did you hear any of the points?
I saw fragments of it. I didn't watch the whole speech. My partners saw the speech. They're more into the currency level.
So let me just give you the rundown on this real quick from my takeaway.
Sure. Yeah.
He said, all right, listen, I'm going to get in there day one. I'm going to fire Gary Gensler, who people in the room are not a fan of. Crowd goes.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Crazy. Fire that guy. Trump goes up a base. He says, I'm going to make the United States the crypto capital of the planet. Music to these guys' ears. What are you talking about right here? So he's pandering to the audience. Trump can do that from time to time. He's a marketer. So here are the takeaways that I understood from the conversations I had with my buddy who started this crypto fund, very legitimate guy. Here are the 3 biggest takeaways from Trump speaking at the Bitcoin conference. Number 1 is monumental for legitimizing the crypto industry. Legitimacy. Right. That's number 1. Right. A former president of the United States and the current leading candidate for the candidacy of the United States right now, president, speaks at the crypto conference, pro-crypto. What? So he addresses the conference. It was huge reception. By the way, it wasn't only Trump. There's 2 leading candidates, not Kamala, Trump and RFK, that both spoke. Not only that, there was a couple dozen Congress and senators there either speaking or courting the crypto vote. That's how you know it's legit. And the central theme is freedom to financial freedom to transact without government authoritarianism, from government interference, privacy. Okay, that's number 1. Legitimacy. Number 2, the crypto vote is pretty damn powerful. Why is it powerful? Because it's got money. I think they said 175 million people around the world hold
Cool.
crypto,
Yes.
50
Yes.
million in the United States. It's a political force, and they also have contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to lobbying efforts to get crypto legitimized. So, you know how they say it's the economy, stupid, people are voting on their pocketbook issues. Number one issue is the economy. It's a pretty big deal for these crypto guys. By the way, you have big banks like BlackRock there advocating and promoting their spot ETF that they came out with. And this is all irrespective of Trump.
Right.
So then you bring in the Trump factor. So Trump shows up, and it was good and bad from what I hear. The good of it was symbolically a monumental moment for him to come out and say, yes, I want your vote. I believe in what you guys are doing. Not only do I believe in what you're doing, I want to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. I'm going to fire Gary Gensler, who's threatened to make central bank digital currencies. Oh, by the way, you know how United States holds 20% of the world's gold reserves? Did you know that?
Yeah.
What I want to do is hold 200,000 Bitcoin just like that. We do with gold as a strategic reserve. So people are like, "Oh my God, this is pretty amazing." Now,
Because the guy, remember I spoke with Daniel Baldwin. He's friends with a guy from El Salvador, right? He did it. And we spoke about this last time. Remember that it's a huge problem if America doesn't take a head on to adopting cryptocurrency, because then we're going to be behind all these other countries. Look at that. We spoke about it and boom, it happens.
This is what Trump's talking about. Those RFK is talking about. So, you know, there's obviously some people in the room that were like, it felt like a campaign speech. It felt like it was just sort of red meat for the base. And they kind of scoffed at his approach. It was sort of like a Trump rally. But at the end of the day, Trump helped legitimize the crypto industry. He helped recognize how powerful it is. And it was symbolic, if it was nothing else, of America's admission that, hey, we got to embrace what's going on in the crypto world, especially Bitcoin. So it's a pretty unique moment. And then here's the last
strong. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The last point. You know how you can tell that what Trump did got noticed? All right, how could you tell? Well, the next day, a contingent of Democrats got together, wrote a big note to the DNC chairman, Jamie Harrison, and said, hey, I don't know if you just saw what Trump just did, but we need to wake up and embrace what's going on here, or we're going to be left behind. There's millions and millions of people who are voting just based on the crypto alone, and we're not going to acknowledge this whatsoever. We're going to lose this vote. Now, 75%, 80% of this vote is men. So, you know, the Democrat strategy is abortion, women, liberal.
Right.
A block of voters that Trump is going to be capitalizing on, and the Democrats have not done anything to pander for those people yet. So it'll be interesting to see who these people vote for. These people, by our nature, libertarian party, running in the Libertarian Party right now. Before that, it was Gary, I forget his name, Gary whatever. But the reality is Trump is now potentially the leading candidate for the crypto community. So Gary Johnson.
You know another thing. There's another thing that we're not analyzing because, you know, I'm in the crypto space, right? So the other thing is that the House passed a bill for cryptocurrency and defining cryptocurrency, exchanges, utilities, and what's it called? I think it's H something it's called. I can send your team the link as well. But they literally more than half of Democrat Congress shut down the bill. It was a majority of Republicans, a good set of Democrats that passed the bill. So that already is a huge loss in their part that they don't want to change the cryptocurrency rules. And Trump, I think, has, you know, he's broken the record because he's the first recorder of accepting cryptocurrency for his campaign. You know, and he's accepted a lot of cryptocurrency in his campaign for payments, and you can donate to his campaign via cryptocurrency with no doubt. Ethereum, Bitcoin, I believe the major 4 or major 5. You can do it.
I'm shocked that RFK didn't do that as well. He might have. I don't know. But
I don't think he got as much. Even if he did, I don't think he got as much as Trump. I think RFK has fumbled the ball with his campaign. Honestly, I think he should have went straight to third party and not stayed in Democratic Party. Who am I to say? I'm not a political party.
He went there too late.
Yeah. I think that's what he did. He did it too late. For sure, he did it too late. I tried to get him on the podcast. I had to fill out a whole form. I'm like, there's no way he's going to come on my show before the election. Maybe after election.
I still think we're going to see what he's going to do. I would love to see RFK on the debate stage, just to keep people accountable, checks and balances right there. There's a reason that there's three parts of the government. There's a legislative, the executive, and then there's the judicial, because there's checks and balances. They hold people accountable. When there's a binary option, Democrat, Republican, it's you're the good guy, you're the bad guy, you're the bad guy, you're the good guy. A third party candidate like an RFK, a la Ross Perot, got 19% in 1992. They can hold people accountable. They can go on stage and say, oh, you were lying about that, and here's why I think you did. Well, you actually did a good job here. I don't know about that. I would love to see RFK make some waves here. The question is, who do you think he hurts more at this point? The Democrats or the Republicans? I don't know.
Probably the Dems most likely. I don't think anyone in his camp is going to vote Trump, with what I understand. From what I've read and watched and, heard from, political analysts and whatever I watch on, on YouTube. I'm not going to disclose what I watch, but, whatever I watch and read. For sure I disclose I watch your shows, but not
I've seen numbers that he takes away from both. I don't think there's any concrete evidence. I think that both sides would love to see him exit the race.
Well, that's for sure, because it's not predictable to know. They can't predict who he's really taking from, and that's a big issue. I mean, ultimately, listen, whatever is happening, and I believe this to be fact, I don't think Kamala as a president will be a successful president. She cannot be a successful president, not because she's a woman, not because she's any of the characteristics that they're trying to embed on her, and that's why you should vote for her. No. The reason is very simple. 95% of people who worked in the public arena, such as Kamala's history, right, are individuals who have never started a project and finished a project. These are individuals who have a team. They tell them what to do, and then she does what she needs to do to get to the next level. But she has not accomplished in the sense of I started something from scratch and I built it. So it's basically like they complain about Trump, that he, quote unquote, they claim that he got money from his father and that's how he started his business. So he got a jump start. So too, she got a jump start in politics. Whatever way she got it, right? And that is not a representation of saying, okay, I can now resolve the Israel-Gaza problem. I can now resolve the Ukraine and Russia problem. I don't see her in any way resolving those issues. I just don't see it. Even as a vice president, she hasn't resolved issues. Now, Trump, the same thing. I don't know if he can resolve the Russia problem. I don't think he can. I think Putin's problem with Trump is that he doubled down on NATO's support. I mean, he increased NATO's funding, which basically what Putin was complaining. Why are you coming on my borders? I mean, why are you funding NATO? Why are you increasing NATO? What, we are at war here? Like, I don't think there's going to be the same synergy everybody's taking. I mean, again, this is what I am thinking. The reason why I'm thinking this way, because we're in a global economy. All these factor points affect business. They affect your bottom line. They affect inflation. They affect people's households, their incomes, their payments. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about, but I don't think we're going to have enough time for this show. But for sure about how people's, how do they manage their lifestyles now? People can't live the same lifestyles anymore that they are accustomed to. They're going to have to cut down lifestyle in order to save money and in order to pay those bills that are continuously growing. I mean, these things are things that we have to constantly, review and check out. What do you think?
Well, I think you're absolutely right about, what has Kamala ever built? And this has nothing to do with, like you said, it's a woman or it's a woman of color or DEI. It has nothing to do with that. It's just look at her track record. Let's just call a spade a spade. I don't know her history with the Willie Brown stuff, these stories that you hear in 2010s and how she even got elected as the senator in California, and it was Barbara Boxer and her seat was needed to get filled. So they got her. I'm just focusing on the last 4 years. Here's what I know. Facts. Kamala ran for president in 2020. How'd she do? Well, we know how she did. She got 0 delegates. She was polling at, 1 to 3% at the end of the race when she had to drop out. The Democratic Party in itself was like, no, we don't want her. She's not our gal. I remember the debate where she called out Joe Biden as a racist, what have you. I was that little girl on the school bus, so that was me, Mr. Vice President. And then the next debate, Tulsi Gabbard just completely destroyed her. Okay, so she does not win the candidacy whatsoever. So Joe Biden says, I got to do the identity politics thing. I got to pick a black female or a woman of color. So my options are the following 3 to 5 women. Okay, I'll take Kamala. Boom. So she's plucked out to be the vice president. She didn't win anything. She was selected. So, but most vice presidents, you can say that. Cool. So now Joe Biden's the candidate up until about 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, he's dropping out. Kamala's the candidate. Excuse me. Did anybody vote for her? Is this a coronation? Did anybody say, oh yeah, this is who we want? Meaning she didn't win an open election where anyone can choose to be it is. So she's been catapulted. Okay, she's selected to be the VP. She's selected to now be the president. The whole problem that people have with DEI is there's one thing that it's missing, and it's called meritocracy.
Right.
So I'm not saying that she didn't earn the right to be selected. Okay, that's great. She's earned this. But nobody voted for her to become vice president. Nobody voted for her to become president of the United States. Now, it remains to be seen what happens here. So there's a stat out there about America's not ready for a female president. Let's see if I can find this real quick.
It's a stat or an article?
It's an article and a stat. 50. Where is this thing?
I mean, I personally, I don't think she's the right. She could be the right. I think Hillary Clinton's 10 times better than she is.
That's my point. Is that?
And it's not because it's their culture. It's about experience and know-how.
Oh, here it is. Number of Americans who say U.S. ready for a female president is dipping. Okay, so what's the point? A new Time survey by the YouGov reveals that only 54% of Americans say they are ready for a female president, a decline of 9 points since 2015. Who ran for president in 2015? Hillary Clinton.
Trump. Hillary Clinton. So they lost credibility on that.
The survey conducted after President Biden dropped out shows that 30% are not ready for a female president, with 41% believing that more than half of their fellow Americans would not vote for an equally qualified woman over a man. Within the Democratic Party, 77% believe the country is ready for a woman to be president, but 37% think their fellow Americans would vote for one. What's the point? Is America ready for a female president? Yes. But does America feel like they're ready for this female president?
Right. No, they're saying no.
So that's the point. Economy. What has she ever done for the economy? The border. She's been the border czar. Apparently the border czar. Now they're trying to basically say she wasn't. What the hell happened?
That's nonsense. That's nonsense. She was.
What has she done to garner peace and prosperity in the world? Now, she was part of the Biden administration. Doesn't look like there's a lot of peace and prosperity going on around the world right now. So, and I'm not the person that's basically saying everything's falling apart, the house is on fire, America sucks. No, I'm just saying compared to what Trump did to compared to what Biden did, it's a pretty clear case example of who's done better for the American people. So I do not think that Kamala is fit and suited to be president. But here's the only problem, right, Benny? We are now not living in the age of MEI, merit, excellence, intelligence. We're living in the age of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So don't be shocked if Kamala Harris is your next president, not because she's earned it, because she was coronated as the black savior of the Democratic Party. But I'm done playing that game. I want America to be strong. It's the whole thing that you see. Good times create weak men create hard times create strong men create good times. We're in that part of the circle right now where weak men have created hard times, and we have to get out of that and have some good times from here, because the direction we're going right now, man, the war in Israel, the war in Ukraine, what's going on with Taiwan, what's going to happen here, Iran feeling emboldened, the Biden administration give them how many $billion? How much of that money went to the Triple H crew, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Hamas?
Right. I think almost all of it.
The world is a lot less safe since Biden took off, sadly enough.
No doubt, no doubt. And to conclude with one point, to elaborate on what you're saying, if you put $250 million in a candidate last minute, that just shows you're afraid she's not going to win. That's why you need that money. Why else she's putting so much money, right? If she's a shoo-in, you don't need so much money for her to win, right? Anyway, what do you think about that?
You got to give him credit. Kamala has inspired the base. She's garnered support from the donor class. I think in a day she raised $200 billion. That's also in addition to how much they had in the war chest that Biden had raised. Don't make a mistake about it. To the people out there who think that Trump is going to run away with this thing, Kamala, as much as she is not in Trump's league, she can win this election, which is crazy to me. Especially since nobody wanted her to be the candidate. And that's why they were basically saying, Joe, stay in, don't stay in. Kamala, I think, the Democratic National Convention, the DNC, is August 17th, I want to say, 19th. So it's about 3 weeks away. I think she's going to be the gal. We'll see if they coronate her at the convention or not.
No doubt, no doubt. So we'll conclude here. Guys, everybody in iShook, don't forget to subscribe to Adam's podcast, the Suzzcast. It's a great show. If you want to learn so much about what he has, his advice is golden. Just like he was giving us a huge rundown on so many topics today. The topics are awesome topics. I love talking to Adam at every time. He is unbelievable. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel, subscribe to PDB, and subscribe to PBD. I apologize. It's like a tongue twister sometimes. So PBD. So everybody, don't forget also to subscribe to iShook as well, and all our other channels that we're creating, because we are creating this network as well. And I wish everybody a lot of success, a lot of blessings. And again, watch us for more financial, political, that it really affects our financial aspects of life. So guys, do not forget to, again, subscribe to Adam's show. And a quick shout out to our producers again, Boris and Ruben Benjamin, and also our CFO, Michael, and Daniel Baldwin as well, and all our other players in iShook to make this platform a success story. Thank you, guys.